This will be a short movie just showing some of the basic accessories you might want to consider for your 35mm camera. The first accessory I would have is a camera strap. Obviously, a camera strap will save your camera if it slips from your hand, so it doesn't fall to the ground and become damaged. I usually wrap it around my wrist a couple times like so. Sometimes I put it on my shoulder, but usually I just do this. That way, if it does slip from my hand, it will stop and it won't hit the ground. So a camera strap is very important. The next thing I would consider having for the camera is a lens filter. And you can get lens filters for all sorts of special effects in photography, but the lens filter I'm talking about is either a UV Haze or a Skylight filter. And these are two filters that have really no effect on your picture at all. They're clear lens or clear filters, and they just screw on the front of the lens to protect the lens so that if something hits the lens that could damage it, instead it will hit the $10 filter instead of the $100 lens, and that way you're going to save your lens. You buy these by thread size. This is a 52mm thread lens, and I have a 52mm thread lens filter to go on top of it. So I always have a lens filter on all of my lenses. The next thing I would consider is a lens hood, and a lens hood goes on just like a filter does. It can go on top of a filter, and the purpose of the lens hood is to cut down on direct light hitting the lens. So when direct light comes in and hits the lens, say you're shooting into the sun or close to shooting into the sun, if direct light will hit the lens, you'll see a flare on your negative where there's a case of overexposure there. And it's something you might want to avoid, just having this lens flare on your negative. So a lens hood will help cut that down. The next thing I would consider having, especially if you're thinking about doing any long exposure photography or night photography, is a cable release. And this is just a simple cable release, and typically it will screw into the shutter release button on your camera. This way you can put your camera on a tripod and you can open and close the shutter with the cable release, and that will help prevent any sort of camera motion or blurring. So good idea to have a cable release for long exposures. So I'm going to take that off there. Lastly, I'm not shooting a lot of flash photography these days, but if you are considering shooting flash photography, you'll need a flash, obviously. Some cameras have pop-up flashes, but you can buy external flashes. You can get flashes very inexpensively used, and with a manual camera such as my Nikon FM2, I could use virtually any flash. It does not have to be the most expensive fancy flash in the world. This is a cheap Vivitar flash, and as long as your flash will connect to the hot shoe on your camera, you're in business. So that's one other thing to think about. There's some basic accessories. Thank you for listening, and I'll talk to you next time.